I'll be on track and be faithful to the declarations that I've set for myself. And then maybe I don't get the results that I want, or my body feels off. And my response to that is, well, why do I need to be so intentional with myself then? Like, I just want to throw it all away.
I'm just going to, call it, or cut it short, cheating yourself on either side just a little. They're all versions of the same thing. It's avoiding the exact clue that you're doing it right.
I think we all are going to have days that we just don't feel that great. And I feel like it's those days that I'm working all the other days for.
And if you're trying to cut a corner or throw in the towel, you're not doing it right. But if you're feeling desperately uncomfortable and you feel the temptation to quit, that's the clue that you're doing it right. And that's the feeling you're looking for.
Like, it's the day that I don't feel my 100% best, that I'm actually putting all the work in for, but also just that my baseline is overall healthier and my mental, emotional, physical health is overall better.
This is where Holly's point's really helpful. Looking back over your body of work, you know you can bear it because you bore it before.
I do give 110%, but I'm not 100% in control, and I need to release a little bit of that feeling. Just recognize that God's sovereign and that we put the work in for a bigger picture.
Go from like, I want to check the box to like, I'm looking for the thing. That's the point. If I can get to the thing, stay there just a little longer than I can bear. Now I've made a deposit, this vote for who I want to be in the future. And I find that incredibly difficult and incredibly compelling and more available than we think. And that exercise is worth your time.
As humans, we prefer the path of least resistance. We crave convenience, the payoff without the price. But when our lives revolve around comfort, it doesn't deliver. Living in perpetual comfort leaves us weak and asleep. This podcast is an invitation to flip that script, to choose the unlikely path, to get the life you really want through voluntary discomfort. This is Strong and Awake. I'm Dane Sanders.
Mitch, do you know the StrengthsFinder thing?
I am familiar. Yes.
That Clifton, Marcus Buckingham deal.
Yeah.
I love it so much because it tells you that you can avoid your weakness and just focus on your strengths and skip all the hard bits. But
yep. And weaponize it against other people.
Oh, it's so powerful, right?
It's really convenient. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So away from our cynicism, because actually I think there's a tremendous gold in this. But if for those of you who are unfamiliar listening, you take this assessment and it tells you what they call what your talent themes are, your top 5 talent themes. And I think there's 39 or something other options available, but they actually only tell you your top 5 because what they want to do is have you not see your bottom stuff, because they dissuade you from trying to improve your bad things and instead want you to just focus on what you're naturally gifted at and accentuate those. So that's their philosophy and that's what you do. And it's pretty compelling. But in it, I have my 5 talent themes, and I want to tell you about my first 2 talents, my number 1 and number 2 talents, what I'm the best at. Of all of the things I'm good at, these are the 2 things I'm the best at. Can I tell you?
Yeah. Drum roll, please.
Okay. So there's 2 of them. They both start with A. The first is I am what they call an activator and an achiever. So what that means practically is I love to get started and I love to be done. But the middle bit is just agony, just agony. And another way to put it in our world is it's uncomfortable. The middle is the most uncomfortable for me. And I want to spend today's conversation, especially given Holly's input, I want to spend our conversation talking about the middle bit, in case hypothetically anyone at home can relate to my dilemma. Can you relate?
Oh, absolutely. I have similar strengths in the sense where I love to talk about the thing. I love to ideate about the thing. Yet the actual execution, that's the suffering. That's the hard part. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot, obviously we have kind of innate strengths and tendencies, but then we also have these kind of external voices and sources, especially kind of in today's day and age, that are telling us like, now, faster, 5-minute abs, like better. And so I'm curious to hear, like, what are these other kind of influences? Like, we've got the external and the internal that are influencing this kind of impatience in us.
You know, one of the, it's helpful to look through the StrengthsFinder lens, for me at least, because I have to ask myself, like, what is it about starting and being done that I crave so much? Like, why is it's like sugar? Like, why do I want that? And I think there's something about novelty or new that I think humans broadly are drawn to. I mean, new is one of the most powerful marketing messages in the world, brand new. And yet, me in particular, I think I'm particularly drawn to new. And there's a embedded resistance in that. But the upside is like, it's yummy. It's shiny. It's fresh. It's full of hope, right? And then the done part, for me, I think, and partly how I'm wired, is it means, especially if done means that I've won somehow, or I completed it to victory. It feels good. It feels like a rush, or maybe it's a dopamine hit or something. I'm not sure on the hormonal or chemical hits I'm getting in those moments, but the resolve, the completion, it can feel, I like closure. I like kind of putting a period at the end of the sentence. And I think that there's something that's not very, I don't get any of those kind of hits of new and fresh or complete and resolved in the middle. The middle it's agonizing. Like this. So this morning I was doing a workout with my buddy Taylor Holiday, MWOD, Man of Discomfort #1, and we were in his garage working out, and we were doing hollow holds. And for those who are unfamiliar, hollow holds is basically you put your body in the shape of a banana, where the bottom of the arc is the kind of your small of your back, and you keep your legs straight out one way and your arms straight out the other way, and you're just kind of in that hollow hold. And we're just doing these little 45-second hold it in one spot, 15-second rest, and so on. And all I wanted to do was look at the clock the whole time. Why? Because I'm just so desperate to be done. And I will say I'm not desperate to get started in those moments because I know it's coming. But there is just this sense of like fatigue and no upside and no. It's just you're in it. It's really uncomfortable. And I would, not everything feels like a hollow hold in the middle of your exercise, but it's a great name for an exercise because it's hollow. Literally, there's nothing there to kind of grab onto, and you have one job: hold on. Like, just live in the tension that you can bear, as much as you can bear it. And I think that's it offers some explanatory power. Like, if indeed it feels hollow, and if indeed your only job is to hold on, and you don't get any of the upside, none of the perks, none of the sugary, shiny bits, or even the done, like, yes, complete, I win, or whatever. I've even experienced, some games I've been playing where I'm like, I'm getting beat up and the inevitable is happening. I'm going to lose at whatever game I'm playing. And I just want those to end too sometimes, as opposed to kind of sitting in the pushing back bit. So that's what comes to mind for me. Is it's a little like wilderness, barren, hollow. And if you don't have a lot to hold on to in those things, apart from the discomforting tension, I can see why it's so motivating for people to just want to throw in the towel.
Yeah. Yeah. When we're in that messy middle, like, the things that come to mind is like, what do we want? We want like relief, or we want like results immediately. Yeah. Because I think oftentimes, like, some advice that I think is sound at times is like encouragement to have this perspective. Like, when you're in those moments, think about what you're doing for your future self, or who you're becoming, or, the gains that you'll get from this. And I think that's again, it can be resourceful, but I think it's like an incomplete solution.
Because
And I think people sniff that out. They're like, that doesn't work,
Well, because it's true. Like, I think it works great when you're talking about it on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But all we need to do is get into a hollow hold and do the podcast at the same time. And talking about it will be utter. This is what the podcast will sound like.
Yeah.
Like, but it's probably more honest because it's only in retrospect or looking into the future that talking about it is helpful. And why do we do this podcast? Well, we want to do that. We want to do that very thing. But when you're in the thick of it, it just doesn't, it's not compelling. That's not going to help in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's something else that's required, some other kind of something. And that's what we want to talk about today is what is that something? How do you access that something that does sustain us, holds us in, creates resilience and grit, has that sense of like, it's not so much cognitive as it's embodied. And when we do the thing, when we lock into that thing, there's not immediately, but there is I've experienced this where you're in the middle of it and you're like, this is good. And the goodness of it is that I'm feeling the exact discomfort that's the wiring is when I'm feeling that thing, I know I'm doing it right. I was at physical therapy yesterday I got a back leg thing going on. And I was given this little clamshell thing exercise where you're like laying on your side and you put the little stretchy thing but around your knees and you're just trying to, with your knees going like this, or I guess
opening them up.
Yeah.
For our audio listeners.
Yeah, that's right. Audio. Exactly. Not very helpful when I'm just driving it away. The point is I was doing the exercise one way and my physical therapist came up and was like, why don't you do this? And gave like a little tweak, like push your hips in a little bit, keep your ankles together, whatever. And it went from like, oh, this is hard to like, oh, this is unbearable.
Sounds like physical therapy. Yeah.
And yeah, right. You know this from your brother and
my dad. PT.
Oh, your dad. Sorry. Not your brother. And anyways, but that's exactly why am I paying money to go to physical therapy to get through the thing without the benefit? Well, the clue that I'm getting the benefit is the pain. And to avoid it is just, it's acting. It's pretending you're getting physical therapy. And I don't want to be a pretender. I've been a pretender in too many categories my whole life. And I know how that feels. It feels gross on the other side of it to posture as opposed to actually do the work. Yeah. And the other side of it is having done the work, talk about gratifying. Like when you know you're the real deal, you don't need anybody to tell you. You can be ignored. You can be discounted. But when you know that you did the thing, you've embraced the work. I don't know that there's that much more gratifying in the world.
Yeah, because
go ahead. No, I was going to say there's only one way to get it, and that's to actually get the pain. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just saying, like there are so many scenarios I can think of where I find myself in that situation, where like I'm technically checking a box, but I know I'm not actually wholeheartedly doing this thing. Mm-hmm. You've got time in your calendar to accomplish a certain task, and you sit there piddling away doing that thing, but at the end of it like actually wasn't accomplished, but you're hoping that having sat there or having like technically done the thing, like you get some kind of reward. But no, it's not the case. People sign up for, classes at the gym or whatever and do the same thing. They kind of phone it in, and then they're wondering why the universe hasn't smiled on them because they technically attended that class, but they're not seeing any results. It's like the same kind of a thing. So before we do get to some of these, like what we can do, like what it takes to like be the real deal, like what are some of those things that we often do, those kind of flawed, imperfect solutions?
Yeah.
Maybe imperfect is the wrong word, but that would actually serve as signals that we're trying to get out of the thing or we're running in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I think it's the right question. So the stuff that we've tried, right? So there's a sense And that kind of goes in a couple directions. One direction is I'm in the thing. I'm in that hollow hold moment, right? And I'm really uncomfortable, meaning I'm doing it right. And because it's uncomfortable, I tell myself I must be doing it wrong. And I'll like switch up the angle, or I'll start giving myself accommodations, or I'll maybe look at my buddy next to me doing a thing and they seem to be doing it better than me. And I'll start telling myself stories like, well, what's the point? Or the two directions I want to talk about is like, we can talk ourselves toward doing the thing, or we can talk ourselves away from doing the thing. But in the toward the thing, it could be a false sense of it. Like if I am in the middle of a discomforting exercise and it's really uncomfortable and I'm just looking for a distraction from the thing, whether it's like looking at the clock or I'm comparing myself to others or whatever, like I'm not in the thing in that moment. Every time I'm just kind of aware of it, I'm drifting away from it. But I might be thinking, well, I'm still doing something. I'm just doing it in a way that is subtly distracting myself. And the other direction is just to quit. It's just be like, what's the point? I'm out, throw the towel. And I think we as humans try versions of that to different extremes all the time. We have this feeling of I'm going closer to the tension, but in truth, I'm complaining, I'm negative, I'm telling myself a story of how hard it is, as opposed to the more true thing is just go, well, whether it's hard or easy, if I'm in it, it's uncomfortable. And my whole job is to just be in it. So what would it look like for me to not try to adjust my metaphorical position, to not look at the clock, to actually get into the discomfort, to actually become friends with this? This is the Courtney DeWalter kind of approach. Like, get to know it, remodel the pain cave, get closer to the discomfort. Is not complaining about it. It's just it's acknowledging what it is and being in it. And then the opposite is like cynically going, gosh, what's the point? That person's way better than me. I'm not making any progress. This is so dumb. I'm just gonna, call it in or cut it short. Like, you're doing a hollow hold for 45 seconds and you press start and then you get into the hold and then you're anticipating the end and you end before it's complete and cheating yourself on either side just a little. They're all versions of the same thing. It's avoiding the exact clue that you're doing it right. And when you find that you're doing it right, and it is very uncomfortable, it sounds so, I mean, you can hear me stumbling over my words. To settle into that is the exercise. That's it. And if you're trying to tweak with it or twirl with it or look at somebody else or cut a corner or throw in the towel, you're not doing it right. But if you're feeling desperately uncomfortable and you feel the temptation to quit or the temptation to tweak, that's the clue that you're doing it right. And that's the feeling you're looking for.
And that's so counter. My goodness. Like everything in kind of culture, society, even in our own kind of fight or flight wants to say, get out.
Yeah, fight or
quit
or flight, right? Or freeze or exactly. That's the whole point. And this is the executive functioning. This is gaining agency that's happening is, yes, of course you want it to be done. Of course you want something new to happen. Your opinion actually has no relevance to your committed state. Release on it. Let it go.
Yeah.
And of course, saying it is harder than doing it. Saying it actually has nothing to do with doing it. You just know that you've done it when you settle in. And I know everyone listening has had moments like this where they've settled in. They've just given themselves to it. They've stopped playing little games in their mind or with their body, and they just go, no, I'm actually looking for, I want more of the discomfort. They go from like, I want to check the box to like, I'm looking for the thing. That's the point. If I can get to the thing and stay there just a little longer than I can bear, then that's the part where I go, okay, now I've made a deposit into this kind of this vote for who I want to be in the future, as James Clear talks about. And I find that incredibly difficult and incredibly compelling and more available than we think, especially, and this is where Holly's point's really helpful about like kind of looking back over your body of work. You know, you can bear it because you bore it before. And now you're going to another level of bearing it. And you don't have to overthink, like if I hit my limit or whatever, that now you're playing the games again. Just get back to the thing. Let it be what it's going to be. And forget yourself a little bit. Mm-hmm. Forget your preferences, your opinions, your options. Be here now.
I think people have experienced this too. Maybe if they haven't chosen kind of voluntary discomfort, I think a lot of people get a glimpse into the benefits or necessity of that release piece when they're under it or when they're in a whirlwind. Like it's that moment when you like almost like have to release in order to get through, especially when kind of hardship is thrust upon you. And I think it's really easy, like we've been saying this whole time, for people on the outside to say, oh, well, just look back, or things will get better, or there's going to be so much, there's a silver lining in this moment. And that perspective can be resourceful, like we're saying with Holly. But there's something really particular that we were talking about right before we hit record. And it's about kind of like flipping the script on this kind of perspective that people are often advocating for when talking about patience, when talking about delayed gratification. And I want to spend the last part of this podcast focusing on what we've been kind of hinting at this whole time of like the presence and how important that is and what that actually looks like. And I think you even had a metaphor that we were talking about before.
Well, I have two metaphors.
Great, even better.
Yeah, but I think they're the same thing. And the first one I think is more accessible than the second. But I take that back. The second one is so accessible, it might be too painful to lead with. So we'll set that up for just a second. So the first one, we'll go to my favorite metaphor of all time, which is of course pickleball. And for those who've been active listeners of the show, they know I've been working on my game for the last year, and I'm way better at the game than I used to be. Ask my friends, they'll tell you. But one of the most significant breakthroughs in my skill as a pickleball player is, if you come back to wanting to start and wanting to finish, I love the game. It's just fun to play. I love starting a new game, 0-0. 0-0-2, if you know the game, you start in the second serve, I go, and off you go. But what's amazing is I say I love the game, but there's this feeling that I really love, this hit I love when I win 11, whatever. And it's odd to me that I play a game that I want to end. Like, why is that so important? And quick nod, by the way, if you've ever listened to past episodes, go listen to the Infinite Game episode. I think could be really helpful in our Anchor series.
We'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's helpful here. But the point here is, the more I thought about how I wanted to win games, I actually was stalling my progress in expanding my skill as a pickleball player. I actually won fewer games when I focused on wanting to win the game. This comes up all the time in sport, right? Like we all recently, if depending when this was recorded, Rory McIlroy won the Masters to complete the Grand Slam of his career. It took him a long time, over a decade of tries to finish this final kind of tournament. We even have a fun little connection to Rory through the Men and Women of Discomfort community, where one of our members is really good friends with Rory's advisor, his psychological advisor, to help him not like fall apart in the clutch, because he had a history of that, of kind of being really close but not getting the job done. And the guy's world class, like kind of Mount Rushmore of golf. And so we're all susceptible to this tension of choking, of just giving up the hold on the thing that we're in for something like some anticipation of the future or fear or whatever it is. And I do that all the time in pickle. So I'll get close to the end and I lose games. I'm like, what? I get a little tight and like, what is that deal? What is choking really about? And another link we might want to add is Steve Magnus's Winning the Inside Game, because he talks a lot about this. But this idea of like slowing the train down to not think in terms of trying to win a game, but being really fixated on points. It's just the point. And if the point is won, I can't wait to get to the next point, because if you won it, good for you. If the point is lost, you might be upset about it. Have a moment, release on it, get back to the game. You don't try to be famous for winning games. Be famous for winning points. Like what's the smallest kind of thing you can be in where you hold the tension of the game. You hold the tension of that point, because it turns out that's all there are points. And if you could actually forget the score of games entirely and focus exclusively on being someone who is so locked in on every single point. So if you did well in the last point, it has no impact on this point. If you did horribly in the last one, it has no impact on this point. It's just, you get to do it again. You get to do it again. And I have found it's revolutionized it. Like if I could somehow in a Severance kind of way, flick a switch and not know the score of any game or who's won how many games, I bet you on aggregate, I would win way more games. And I'd actually get the satisfaction of the 11th point, but I would really get the satisfaction of being in every single point. So that's the first metaphor. And I hope that's helpful for some. But the second one is actually harder. And this one is not about working out in a hollow hold or doing another physical workout or eating differently or whatever. It's relational. And I want folks at home to think about being with someone who just bugs the crap out of them. Personality wise, maybe you have a history. Maybe there's something going, like there's just something like you have a meeting coming up and that person's on the invite list and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. And the temptation, you can hear it in it, right? Is like, how quickly can this meeting be done? I would just like to be done. I don't want to be part of this anymore. And what I want you to imagine is being present to that person to the point of it's empathy. It's trying to understand what is life like through the eyes of this person. How can I see them as a person, not as an object, not as an irritant, not as a thing that I'm just trying to get past. And I say this confessionally, right? Like I'm that guy. I can totally judge other people. I know people judge me too, but this is different. I'm way more. I'm the worst of sinners in this category, in my view. And one of the greatest practices I can have is to embrace that relational discomfort. And what I've been amazed by is not only how I benefit from that, like I grow in patience, I grow in character, I grow in empathy, but what I've radically underestimated is how much of a gift it is for the other. It's actually not about me. If I can stop concerning myself with wanting to be done in a relationship, to have them deleted from my view and on to the next, it has an impact on the other in such a way where they feel seen. Someone's been present to them. I actually think it has something to do with the hope of humanity, that this kind of practice, if we all did it, would actually change things socially. Now forget self-optimization. This is now about relational work, that actually the other is redeemed in a way that is good for you and good for them, and like peace on earth kind of stuff starts happening. Peace that wouldn't have been there unless somebody was willing to do the work to hold into the tension, to not having the game be done, but for the game to perpetuate. And that exercise is worth your time. It's worth your time. It's worth sitting with the one that's hard. And I have a hunch for some of you, at least if you're like me, some of those people are actually some of the people that you say you love the most, but in the right conditions, it's just really hard to do. It's really painful. But it's exactly what the doctor's ordering. If you want to see the stuff that can only come from that kind of patience.
Bringing it full circle with the doctors and PT and holding that tension. It's so true. And I think, I grew up in Hawaii and went to a really small school and was in a really small town. And there was so much benefit to almost being like forced to be in that small community where I don't have the luxury of all of this variety, all of this optionality. Like it's the gift of being forced to be with people that you wouldn't otherwise be with, to learn how to be friends with, to learn how to sit in, to learn how to like make the most out of some of these limited resources and opportunities. And I think that's something that I often find myself craving at times, because like we live in this world where, the world's your oyster. You can have whatever you want. And one of the reason I bring this up is because this tension that I got to experience by happenstance of this community, of like being committed to a common thing and figuring it out, even though it's uncomfortable, like is what I get to experience in our community at MWOD. It's like, there are lots of people with whom I get to rub shoulders with and persevere with who I normally wouldn't, or maybe I might, dismiss because they feel incompatible with my personality or something. But even those, like relationally, not to mention the very kind of practices that we're enrolled in and committing to and putting ourselves on the hook for, are practices in this kind of patience and this kind of macro discipline that has been just such a gift. Hard, but a gift in this season. So thank you for co-founding it and starting it and inviting me and many others into it. And do you have an invitation for the listeners, whether it's becoming a part of this community or even what they can do right now in the present, in their day-to-day life?
Yeah. I mean, big picture, friends, if you've been listening for a while and you haven't applied, come on, let's go. MWOD.io/apply. This is moving toward the thing that I think you might want. So go do that now. But what I want to leave people with that is actually a very simple word that I think is practically relevant to everything we've talked about today. And the word is shush. It's probably in our community, we have a thing called Tuesday Tips. So Monday New Habits, Tuesday Tips, Wednesday Anchors, Thursday Truths, Friday Fess Ups, Saturday Challenge, Rest on Sunday. And on Tuesday Tips, one of our Tuesday Tips that comes in periodically is this idea of shush, shush, shush. And for whatever reason, that has stuck with me. Where it came from was I was taking a cold shower and I was making sounds, and my wife was in the other room going like, "What is going on in the bathroom?" And I was saying shush, shush, shush to myself. And to her, it sounded like I was like breathing weird or just trying to get whatever, like yelling but I was like, what I was actually doing was executive functioning, front of my body, front of my head, my brain, telling my amygdala to be quiet, telling my amygdala to pipe down. It's not the boss. And I think that's the primary biological driver here is this part of us lights up, and it's the flight or fight. It's the fear. It's the self-preservation. And for me to tell it, look, I'm fine. Shush, shush, shush. Like stay in the hollow hold, get in the right position that's uncomfortable, be with the person that's in front of you. Shush, shush, shush. And see if you don't grow in your capacity to be present everywhere you go. And I have a hunch those who are brave enough to experiment with shushing those parts of themselves that are not serving you, tell them who's boss and see if you aren't grateful for doing it.
Well, on that note, we're going to shush and tune out here. Thanks, Dane.
Men and Women of Discomfort is our membership community, and we are open to everyone. But keep in mind, our tagline is, "It's probably not for you." If we're wrong about that, or if you want to find out for yourself, you can find us at MWOD